This jack-o'-lantern was carved on Saturday, the day before Halloween. And today is Friday, 6 days later. Now, I just came home to see for the first time it is covered in bugs. Now, the reason I bring this up, the reason I'm pointing, making note of this, is that it shows impermanence. You know, I bought this pumpkin maybe a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, okay? And it was totally fine, totally healthy, alive, everything, or whatever it was. Then it got carved on October 30th. Today is November 6th. In this period of time, this duration, it went from being a nice, presentable jack-o'-lantern with a nice candle inside that I need to take out, to being this quite literally decaying thing, rotting. Now, if you think about any form, be it anything, be it a car, be it a table, be it a person, be it a tree, anything, be it an animal, be it a pumpkin, it's made of physical matter and therefore is inherently destructible and inherently will either change form, it will transform, or it will be destroyed. Right? Like a building can last for 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years. Some ancient buildings are thousands of years old, right? And they're transforming in the sense that their component parts are a little bit different. Some people who have upkept it need to change the screws, and they need to change some elements of it to make sure that it maintains its form. And let's say it even lasts forever, it's still changing form. It'll probably be destroyed at some point anyway, one way or the other. But for things that are more easy to see how they come and they go, be it a person, be it a pumpkin, it comes and it will rot, die, decompose, decay, and be gone. This pumpkin served its time. It was a good pumpkin, beautiful jack-o'-lantern, and you may even say it was this pumpkin's destiny to be a jack-o'-lantern, to be this jack-o'-lantern, to be my jack-o'-lantern in October and November of 2021. Get my coffee. Now, I'm bringing this up to say that all people, all things are impermanent. And when a human understands their own mortality, and they're not scared of it, they're not scared of it in an ego sense of, oh, I'm gonna die, it's so sad. But they view themselves as themselves being the all-powerful, ever-powerful life force. Life, the thing that animates you, the thing that you actually are, the thing that underlies everything, the thing that underlies the hand, the pumpkin, the eyes, the sights, the thoughts, the phenomena, etc. When they see themselves to be the absolute unconditioned life force, they realize that they themselves are witnessing or experiencing a passing of form. You know, I used to be a child. I was Jay Shaw. I used to be a child. I remember this. I've got photographs of it. Now I'm 29. I'm no longer a child, though in my mind I still kind of am, for better or for worse. I am passing through this phase too. And as I move along, thinking that my life is in my control of my own accord, which it's not. It's in the accord of a larger force. And I can only know so much. I can, even my micro decisions of like, okay, to film, I didn't know I was gonna film this. I didn't know there'd be bugs on this thing. I didn't know the insight would hit me to film this when I walked up to my house today. But I'm doing it now, you see? The universe compelled me to do it. Now you may say, oh, well, you had the free will at that moment. You made the choice. I don't think so. I didn't plan it. You know, like, I think I was simply compelled to do it for whatever reason. So, that whatever reason being a larger reason, a reason I'm not consciously aware of, that my mental sphere can't think about or even begin to fathom. Although it can think a lot of things about it without knowing what it's talking about. So anyway, my larger point is that all things come, all things go, and they reproduce. This pumpkin, if we were to put it unrealistically, but literally, let's say I recycle it into a pumpkin garden. I just throw it in there, and it decomposes into soil that then becomes a new pumpkin. These constituent parts become another pumpkin, literally, right? What's realistically going to happen is that I'll throw it away, it'll probably decompose and rot somewhere. More bugs and more sorts of things will eat at it. Little flies that are here are going to take little bits of it. and then fly away to flyland and then pollinate something else or whatever it may be. They're taking components of it away, right? This thing is now dead and it's decaying, and it will recycle itself into the universe. In the same way, when a person dies, if they're buried, worms, bacteria, and etc. Eat their body, and then you're left with like a mummified skeleton years later, or something like that, right? If you're cremated, you turn into ash, and then that ash literally goes back into the universe. Maybe your carbon, I don't know the science, maybe your carbon gets burnt up when you're being, when the body's being cremated. My mom and dad have both been cremated at this point. And in India, and if you think about it, let's just say the carbon goes into the air, it's spiritual in the sense that you're burning your karma, maybe. But, you know, in India, we take the ashes to the Ganges, or to some body of water that flows to the ocean, so they can be one with the world. And by they, I mean that what's remains of their body. So the overall point is to bring it back to the personal. Each person, which is to say you as you're listening to this, you are the unconditioned total life force. You are the eternal life force. You're experiencing being, say your name. I am experiencing being blank. I'll say it to myself. I am experiencing being Jay. You are experiencing being, no, let's actually say it. I'll say it. We'll say it at the same time. All right? 1, 2, 3. I am experiencing being Jay. I mean, you should have said your name at that point. See, when you really understand that and know that this physical thing will have its birth, its rise, and its fall, it actually taps you into a deeper dimension in which there's a lot of peace. Better decisions can be made. There's less fear involved in the general ethos of your entire existence. And the decisions that you make come from wisdom. You can understand what's good and what's bad with more clarity, with more proper discernment, rather than fear-based discernment. You can see what's bad, what's actually bad, not what you think is bad out of fear. In which case, you could be right, you could be wrong, you don't know. You move to a higher level of higher discernment. That can help you discern better what to ingest in your body, how to treat people, how to engage within the world. It can reorient your life purpose, because you realize it's all impermanent, and that whatever you thought you were doing is not actually important. But it needs to hit you experientially. That it can only hit you experientially if something inside changes. And that's why this very little lesson in impermanence is important. The Buddha, for example, lived a life of complete form. Form meaning, you know, mind, body, it was all great. He was like a prince in a palace, right? And the Father sheltered him intentionally from all signs of decay, old age, poverty, whatever. And the Buddha realized, though he had everything, that there's something more to life. He was not the Buddha at this point, his name was Siddhartha Gautama. And he left the castle, or the palace, and he saw 4 marks of existence. He saw a corpse, much like this. So he oh my God, death exists, right? He sees a beggar to indicate poverty. He saw 2 other things as well. And these got him contemplating, and rather than run from them, rather than try to avoid, rather than try to preserve vainly, he sunk into them. And then years later, he became enlightened. Once he moved beyond his form identity. Because all form identities are temporal. All form identities are guaranteed to pass. Whether that happens quickly or whether that happens slowly, which is also, by the way, a matter of perspective from the standpoint of the infinite. Yeah, all the forms pass. So for me personally, like, my parents both died. They both died fairly young. My dad at 74, my mom at 69. And trust me, at the level of humanity, at the level of it being personal, it was tragic. Truly tragic. It was so bad. You know, my parents. I really mean that. I have very deep emotions about how bad it was. I'm very sad, actually. But there's a deeper truth here, right? Which is that, you know, all forms die. You know, all forms die, and they, so to say, perhaps return to the unmanifested. right? Or maybe life in its full expression just manifests differently. Now, the expression of life right now is simply without Atul and Amoa. And it has J. 70 years ago, you had Atul and Amoa, you didn't have J. You see, it's always changing. So, anyway, I hope these thoughts are helpful. This was a spontaneous, impromptu thing. I've not made videos in a while. And well, looks like, well, at least for now, I'm getting back into it. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope this helps give you peace about everything. Take care, and stay tuned for more.